In the year 2000, the CEO of a small, struggling startup walked into Blockbuster's corporate headquarters with a proposal. He wanted to sell his company for $50 million. The Blockbuster executives laughed. They literally laughed him out of the room. That CEO was Reed Hastings. That startup was Netflix. Today, Netflix is worth over $200 billion. Blockbuster is worth nothing. To understand how badly Blockbuster failed, you first need to understand how powerful they were. At its peak in 2004, Blockbuster had 9,000 stores across the world. It employed 60,000 people. It generated nearly $6 billion in annual revenue. It was a cultural institution. Friday night was Blockbuster night. Parents loaded their kids into minivans, drove to the local store, spent 20 minutes arguing over which movie to pick, and walked out with a VHS tape and a bag of microwave popcorn. That experience was Blockbuster. Nobody could touch them. The company had grown so dominant that they controlled 70% of the video rental market. Their brand was everywhere. They had negotiated exclusive windows with major studios, meaning new releases appeared in Blockbuster stores weeks before anywhere else. They had the distribution, they had the relationships, they had the money, and they had a business model that on paper looked bulletproof. In fact, Blockbuster was so confident in its position that they had a secret weapon most people forget about: late fees. Every year, Blockbuster collected over $800 million in late fees alone. That number is not a typo. $800 million from customers who forgot to return their tapes on time. It was pure high-margin revenue that required almost zero additional cost. Blockbuster had structured its entire business around the assumption that people would always be late. Meanwhile, in 1997, a software executive named Reed Hastings made a mistake that would change the world. He rented Apollo 13 from Blockbuster, returned it late, and got hit with a $40 late fee. He was annoyed. $40 for a tape. And on his way to the gym, he had an idea. What if video rentals worked like a gym membership? You pay one flat monthly fee, you get unlimited access, and there are no late fees, ever. Hastings co-founded Netflix with Mark Randolph. They started by mailing DVDs directly to customers' homes. No stores, no shelves, no late fees, just a red envelope in your mailbox. It was a radical concept, and it was gaining traction, but not fast enough. By 2000, Netflix was burning through cash. The dot-com bubble had burst. Investors were nervous. Hastings and Randolph flew to Dallas and met with Blockbuster CEO John Antioco. Their proposal was straightforward. Let us be your online arm. Blockbuster handles the physical stores. Netflix handles the digital future. We will sell Netflix to you for $50 million. Antioco sat across the table and almost certainly thought, why would we pay $50 million for a company with 400,000 subscribers and no path to profitability when we have $6 billion in revenue and 9,000 stores? We are Blockbuster. We don't need you. The meeting lasted less than an hour. The answer was no. Here is where the story becomes genuinely tragic, because Blockbuster was not entirely oblivious. In 2004, they launched Blockbuster Online, a direct competitor to Netflix, offering the same DVD by mail model, but with the added ability to return movies in store. And they eliminated late fees completely. For a brief window, arguably 2004 to 2007, Blockbuster was actually winning. Their stock price recovered. They were adding subscribers. Blockbuster Online reached 2 million subscribers in under a year. Industry analysts said Netflix was in trouble. But then something happened inside Blockbuster that kills companies. The incumbent fought back against the innovator. Wall Street hated the decision to eliminate late fees. Shareholders revolted. They saw that $800 million in annual late fee revenue disappearing, and they panicked. The board fired the executive who had made the change and brought in a new CEO who immediately reversed course. Late fees came back. Blockbuster Online's growth stalled. Reed Hastings later said that Blockbuster's reversal was the luckiest thing that ever happened to Netflix, because it revealed something critical. Blockbuster could not cannibalize itself. Its shareholders, its board, its entire financial structure was built on a business model that the future was making obsolete. The pressure from within, from their own investors made it impossible to change. In Silicon Valley, they call this the innovator's dilemma, a company so successful at what it does today that it cannot afford to invest in what will kill it tomorrow. In 2007, Netflix launched streaming. Not physical discs through the mail, but instant video, on demand, through your computer. Then your TV, then your phone, then every screen in your house. Blockbuster barely responded. By then, they were locked in a death spiral. Their debt was ballooning, their stores were closing, and the DVD-by-mail business that had nearly beaten Netflix just 2 years earlier was now being eaten alive by the internet itself. In 2008, Blockbuster had a market cap of over $1 billion. By 2010, they filed for bankruptcy. The number of Blockbuster stores fell from 9,000 to less than 300 in just 4 years. The last Blockbuster on Earth is in Bend, Oregon. It operates as a tourist destination. People drive for hours to see it, not to rent a movie, but because it feels like visiting a museum exhibit about a world that no longer exists. Its owner, Sandy Harding, has turned it into a cultural artifact. There is a Blockbuster Airbnb. There are Blockbuster slumber parties. People line up to take photos with the logo. The same logo that once hung above 9,000 stores is now a novelty. And the $50 million company that Blockbuster laughed out of the room, Netflix, had 230 million subscribers worldwide by 2023. It produces Oscar-winning films. It has reshaped how an entire civilization consumes stories. All because Blockbuster was too afraid to change. So what do founders actually take from this story? Because it is easy to look at Blockbuster and say they were stupid. They were not. They were smart, well-funded, experienced executives running a dominant business. And they still lost. Here is why and what you must understand to avoid the same fate. Lesson 1. Your biggest revenue source may be your biggest vulnerability. Blockbuster's $800 million in late fees was not just income. It was a trap. It made them structurally unable to eliminate fees even when they knew they had to. When a single revenue stream becomes untouchable, that is the moment your business becomes fragile. Lesson 2. The innovator's dilemma is real. Your best customers and your largest investors will always push you toward protecting what you have today, not building what you need tomorrow. You must build systems that let you cannibalize yourself before someone else does. Lesson 3. Speed matters more than scale. Netflix was a tiny, unprofitable startup when Blockbuster could have bought them for $50 million. Speed and decisive action at that moment would have been worth more than all their stores and infrastructure combined. Lesson 4. Business models have expiration dates. Blockbuster's model worked brilliantly for 20 years, but the underlying assumption that people would rent physical media at a physical store was always going to expire. Every founder must ask, what assumption does my business model depend on, and what happens when that assumption changes? And Lesson 5, the incumbents who win are those who are willing to be their own disruptors. Amazon did this with AWS, Apple did it with the iPhone, cannibalizing the iPod. The ones who refuse to disrupt themselves get disrupted by someone who will. Blockbuster is a ghost. Netflix is a global empire. The distance between those two outcomes was not talent, not technology, not even money. It was the willingness to look at the future without flinching. If you found this story valuable, subscribe to Founder Fuel. Every week, we go deep on the business decisions, the right ones and the catastrophic ones, that shape the companies you know. The next lesson is already waiting.